All right, so we'll start. Welcome all to this webinar today. This has been a webinar that we've planned for a few months. So on this webinar, we are going to learn more about what it is like to run cage-free projects in Africa. And by running cage-free projects in Africa, we are going to get the perspectives and learn about the experiences of 3 animal welfare organizations who are both members of Open Wing Alliance and Animal Advocacy Africa. We are going to talk about all things, right from their challenges, what they think has worked for them, their milestones, what their recommendations. And we believe that this will be a perfect opportunity for you and all of us who are also planning to run our own campaigns in our own countries, our own projects, to get a thing or two to learn. And sharing experiences is also important as part of the Open Wing Alliance and Animal Advocacy Africa. So our webinar today is going to start, and it's going to be in the following this is what is going to happen. So firstly, we started with the introduction, which is what I'm doing. Then we'll jump right into the presentation, where we'll have 10 minutes each by each group. That is Education for Africa Animal Welfare, led by Ayubu from Tanzania. We also have Daniel Abiliba from Animal Welfare League in Ghana, and Kosana Kumalo from Sibanye Trust in Zimbabwe. So we are going to get their presentations, 10 minutes each. Then after that, we are going to have a breakout room session with 3 breakout rooms, so you can choose to join either breakout room, where we'll get into more discussions on this issue, on the cage-free projects. We'll be able to ask questions, we'll be able to deliberate, talk, and be able to learn. Then after that, we'll come back together for the final closing session, and that is how we will conclude our webinar. So I hope that's sufficient. With me, of course, is Jenna from Animal Advocacy Africa, whom we have worked together. We even co-authored an article featuring the 3 organizations who are going to be presenting today. So Jenna, would you like to say hi before Ayubu can start?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see so many people joining us. And yeah, just to highlight for the breakout rooms, I will try to allocate, so I'll allocate the 3 breakout rooms and try to kind of get a mix, so you have different people from the same organization in different breakout rooms. So it won't be voluntary to choose which breakout room. I'll pre-allocate it. Yes.
Great. And now we can delve right into the main agenda for today. And at first, I'd like to welcome Ayubu from EAAW. Ayubu, would you like to share your screen or?
Yes, thank you, Aurelia. Thank you, everyone. I'll share the screen and make a very brief presentation. Actually, I have only 10 minutes to do that. To tell about our work on cage-free movement in Tanzania. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Yes, and all right. EAAW is located in Tanzania, as some of us know, and we are engaging in cage-free activities in the country and actually supporting other groups in a cage-free movement. We started engaging ourselves as EAAW in a cage-free activity since 2018, and we were officially accepted as a member of Open Wing Alliance in 2019 during the Africa Summit in South Africa. We have been participating in different activities, like participating in global campaign, in a regional campaign, but also in raising awareness in the country through social media. and also by using the ordinary media. But also we are raising awareness through the public, addressing public in different areas in the country, but also in interacting with the farmers. We use media in different ways, as we use the funny ways, like in creating the comics, creating the cartoons, and also sharing the talking animals in the public, so that to capture the mind of the public, and also to attract them and gain attention to the public to understand the cage-free movement versus the cage-free farming. We also do the corporate campaigns where we reach out to the hotels, we reach out to the bakeries, we reach out to the different supermarkets that are dealing with the eggs in the country, so that they can also make commitment. We also support the other groups regionally, and involving ourselves in the campaigns like the one that is going on the Pick and Pay. Through the public awareness, through the social media, you can see from this chart that we are using the Facebook, we use the YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and the LinkedIn. And through the Facebook, we have reached up to this moment, we have reached 2,124,000 people through the social media, through the Facebook messages. And through the YouTube, we have reached 64,800 people. And through the Instagram, 78,400 people. Through the Twitter, 22,401. And on TikTok, we have reached 78,000 people, and through the LinkedIn, 6,780. All this comprises the messages that we are sharing on social media through on cages farming and cages movement in Tanzania. We have also managed to conduct the media training to the journalists who supports the cage-free movement in Tanzania, where we managed also to engage with electronic media, printing media, and also the online streams, where the journalists who agreed to form alliance to support the cage-free movement in Tanzania. We have reached 10 corporates in the country to who we have the active discussion with them to make a commitment, to make a cage-free commitment. And so far the discussion is going well. And we are hoping that by end of this year, we'll have a number of commitments from the country. We have also continued to produce the informational materials that we are sharing to the public, so that to continue gaining support on cage-free movement in the country. We are also interacting with the farmers. We have the program that allows us to interact with the farmer to farmer in their place to discuss the cage-free movement on how they can transit from cage-free farming to the cage-free. Some of them making a good achievement, and actually we have already 2 farmers who have abandoned their cages, and they are now doing the free range in the country, and they are finishing up some other arrangement so that to become a full free range farmers. We have also managed to interact successful with the public through the campaigns in the different streets, especially in the city of Dar es Salaam, to address the market areas where eggs are sold, to raise the awareness to the public on caged eggs, versus cage-free eggs. Well, what surprises us during the implementation of cage-free activities in the country, we were very surprised when we had a training with the journalists that how they were ready to support us, to support the cage-free activities. And they agreed to form the Journalist Alliance in Tanzania. Actually, where up to now we have 24 journalists who are ready to support the cage-free activities in the country. They are supporting us through the posting their cage-free message on their social media, sharing the cage-free message in their programs in where they work in their media houses, and also to publish articles in their magazines and the others who works in the daily newspapers. They are also supporting us in that way. But also when we have a report, like when we translated the World Equity Index report, we shared with them. And also when the Open Wing Alliance released the cage-free report, we also translated and shared with them, and it was published very successful. Negatively, we are surprised on how the corporate receive us when we meet them for discussion, or we request to meet them to discuss the cage-free commitment. At first place, they normally receive us very positively, but just after the first meeting or the second meeting, they started slowing down, and some of them fetching out in the discussion or creating the difficult situation from making commitment. Something that didn't work as we implement the cage-free activities in Tanzania is when corporate keep on delaying to make commitment. And they always, as all we know, that they always slide from what the positive side to the negative side, that they are not open to make commitment. Sometimes you think that it will be just a easy way to go when you sit together with them, but sometimes it gets long time to win the battle. Sometimes we think that the way they receive us will just finish up the process easily, but it is taking so long time. And also we find that the communicating with the corporates through the email, it doesn't bring in immediate results. And then this gives us the challenge, and we decided to change the strategies, and we decided to create the way, or to create a new way of reaching to the corporate, and we call it first appear and then communicate. So what we do, we normally go to the company that we need to meet with, and then we now continue the process through the email, because you find that the email, starting with the email, it's not bringing in the results as soon as we wish to be. What I would like to encourage to colleagues who works on cage-free movement or cage-free activities one way, you just make sure that you make a proper planning that will also help you to achieve the commitment, or to achieve your goals. Not only to make a proper planning, but also to give it enough time that you work within that planning, not in rushing time, but you provide a good time to implement the planning. It takes time for corporates to make our farmers to change because of number of reasons. Some of the corporates, they think and talk about their business strategies or business setup, but also for the farmers, it's taking time for them to finish up with the flocks that they have in their shed with all that. But don't give up. Just keep on making follow-up slowly, and keep your focus on what you have planned from the beginning. What we have learned also from this battle is that we need to have to conduct research so that we have accurate data. And also we need to have an updated information so that it can also help us when we having discussion with the corporates, and when also we are addressing the public with the cage-free message. If we have updated information, it will also help us in winning the battle. I would also recommend the colleagues to engage in capacity building, to support each other, also to create the room for the staff to be familiar with the cage-free activities. Also utilize the consultative training, like the one which is offered by, or there are so many trainings that is suggested for the groups to engage in that, so that it can be easier, and also we can learn some on how to do the cage-free activities. Also, there is a mentorship program that you all know that it's conducted by Open Wing Alliance. It's good also to engage in that one because we learn from each other. Get out from comfort zone. That if there is something that you have done that you see that it's working on cage-free movement, don't remain there. Keep on moving and move. Don't feel like you have done all that is supposed to be done, but keep on moving and make another step. It's good also to support the others. Like if, let's say like Sibanye have a campaign that we are doing, it's good also for both of us to gang up and to support each other, so that as we do it together, we can also get to learn on how to win the battle. And also don't be shy to ask or to share the obstacles that we are facing. There is a message that says that we raise by raising others. So let us join our hands and victory will be ours. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ayubu, for sharing your experiences with us on how it is like to run a cage-free campaign, a project in Tanzania. Now, I'd like to welcome Daniel Abiliba all the way from West Africa. Daniel from Animal Welfare League. Perhaps you can share your presentation. Ayubu, can you stop sharing, please?
Just a moment. Sorry, my class have lost. I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. The floor is yours, Daniel. Feel welcome to share your presentation and you can start. Daniel.
Thank you very much. Sharing my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can.
All right. Thank you very much. So, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on cage-free.
Daniel, could you share the correct window? You're sharing your speaker slides.
Oh. Sorry. Okay.
You can share.
Just to say, Daniel, I do have your slides on hand if you want me to present, if that's easier, to share my screen and then you can read off yours.
Yes, Jenna, you do that for me.
Can everyone see it?
Yes. Daniel,
Yes.
you can.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Jenna. A good morning to everyone from Ghana, and welcome to today's webinar on case studies of running cage-free projects in Africa. I'm Daniel Abiliba from Animal Welfare League, which is based in Ghana, and I'll be speaking to you about our project, which is based in Ghana here. I unknowingly tend to speak on a low tone, so kindly do alert me during the presentation if you can't hear me. Next slide. So in my part of the world, it is very common to not care about animals. And most of the time, I usually share this with people. Animals suffer just as much as we do. True humanity does not allow us to impose such suffering on them. It is our duty to make the world recognize that, by Albert Schweitzer. And just to confirm that, yes, you are at the right place and you are doing the right thing by caring about animals and being here. We at Animal Welfare League has embodied ourselves with this call to action, and it is this responsibility that has brought about the small revolution you are about to see in our cage-free work. Next slide, please. Basically, today I'm going to talk to you about our organization, our campaigns, the milestones we have achieved, surprises and challenges we've seen while operating, and highlighting the people and organizations that are supporting us and partnering with us in this work. To start off, Animal Welfare League is relatively a young organization which was founded on the fact that there was a lack of voice for animals, especially farmed animals, and the staff are really passionate about animals and want to do the best they can to help them. Our mission is very practical, as we believe we cannot do this work alone. Hence, we seek to work with stakeholders, communities, government, to provide, and other people to provide better lives for animals. We intrinsically believe that this work can get to a place where animals, and this is to every animal, is given the love, care, or protection that they need. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, great. Our structure. Animal Welfare League, which was founded on research to fill the gaps in the animal advocacy movement in Ghana. We've structured on 3 key areas relevant to our mission. We plan and execute highly impactful projects, carry research to validate, contribute, and improve our understanding, as well as engage with communities, which are the grassroots people who would maintain and adopt best animal welfare practices, translating into sustainable realizations of the efforts that we put in place. Next slide, please. So yeah, we at Animal Welfare League also carry various forms of projects apart from cage-free, and I just wanted to highlight this. We do basic school education, community sensitization, free rabies vaccination, and seminars at universities to enlighten students about animal welfare challenges. And this is a picture just highlighting that these various effects. Now to our cage-free project. To our cage-free project. EAAW, we basically looked at 4 various stakeholders when we were planning out our cage-free work in Ghana here. And so far, we've planned and implemented works on 3 stakeholders, basically. And these 4 stakeholders include consumers, farmers, corporations, and the government. So far, we've started work with corporations, and basically our work on corporations look to engage these companies to implement higher welfare policies in their supply chain. This is important because according to statistics, they have been increasing number of production of poultry in the country. And one of the major outlets of these products is the companies that exist in the country. And by working with these companies, we would intend to have a highly significant impact on the number of the millions of animals that is in their supply chain. We also work with farmers. Basically, that is looking to work with the most obvious and basic stakeholder when it comes to animal welfare reforms. Now, any animal welfare advocate or someone who is passionate about animals would know that this is one of the most obvious people to tackle. But when you actually do plan to execute any project relating to this particular stakeholder, you realize that they are the most difficult people to deal with. And basically what we've done is that we've worked with our partners and research to understand the various key responsibilities, priorities, and preferences of each stakeholder. And we try to communicate our acts in their language, hence leveling the playing field so that each one is understands the essence and then the importance of why we are seeking for better welfare reforms. We also work with consumers through various means, social media, TV, and graphics and petitions and news articles. Interestingly, there used not to be a lot of articles or information published about animal welfare in the Ghanaian news space. But since EAAW existence, we've collectively produced over the past 2 years, three articles on poultry welfare and two other articles on other forms of warfare challenges that exist in a country, highlighting and making this a modern and immediate problem that young people and people of today's world can see and then have reference to. This is very important to us because we understand consumers to be a very significant stakeholder in animal welfare reforms. So to our impact, we are proud of the work that the team is doing at Animal Welfare League, and this is basically trying to capture some of the significant areas that we have achieved a few sort of. Basically, I'll highlight on the farmers in our cage-free farm and directory, and this is has been really significant and the first of its kind in Africa, where farmers are coming together and are pledging to stay and then produce their poultry products in cage-free system, significantly eliminating any forms of cruelty that these animals would face if they were put in battery cages. So the question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? This is a quote by Jeremy Bentham, and I would like to say that when we're starting out as an organization and looking at our project on cage-free, we found that there exists no legal framework, and there were basically no structured documentations on who is responsible to for what when it comes to animal welfare and particularly poultry welfare in the country. But despite all these challenges, we persisted and we persevered to try to address this critical issue. So my good friend Ayubu mentioned, in case of any difficulty and challenges, don't be dismayed and don't allow the circumstance to overcome you. Persevere, because you have and you know that these animals can suffer and they need the best that they can get. Talking about our challenges, the challenges that we experience, we basically saw that corporations were reaching out to, were not responding to our emails, and then we had to adapt. So we moved on to writing proposals and submitting them in person, and then requesting for fiscal meetings and doing follow-ups to get dates for meetings instead of doing phone calls and other stuff. And basically, wherever you are setting up your project on cage-free, you would have to adapt to the local context and work environment there, which is really important for you to succeed. Surprises, we basically were surprised that that a country of our nature, which is very rich and proud in various sorts of works, literally was not having a significant body and works relating on animal welfare in a country. And this kind of rippled out into how things went when regarding issues relating to animal welfare. And in our work, we were basically surprised that farmers specifically were welcoming of our message in pledging and committing to maintain or to go cage-free while producing their poultry products. I would like to highlight these various partners for their support in terms of training, in terms of funding, in terms of whole lot of contribution for the support that they have given to us in planning out and executing our various projects. Thank you guys, and this is for me. If you have any questions, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Daniel, for your presentation. And of course, we look forward to hearing more on what you're doing during the breakout sessions. Now, I'd like to welcome Nkosana Kubalo from Zimbabwe. Nkosana, you able to share your screen?
Hi, Oleria. Yeah, I'm trying to share.
Okay.
Hope everyone can see.
Yes, we can see. Perhaps you can put the, yes, perfect.
My name is Nkosana. Afternoon, everyone. I'll be presenting on behalf of Sibanye Animal Welfare and Conservation Trust. So I'll start with the milestone. One of the biggest milestones that we've been seeing is that there's been increased awareness levels with farmers, also with other stakeholders like policymakers. And this has been achieved through cage-free corporate meetings, training workshops, and helping farmers, and also with regards to media campaigns. We've made significant efforts to educate farmers, consumers, and other stakeholders about the concept and advantages of cage-free systems. So this dissemination of information, in my view, has significantly improved animal welfare, and subsequently it has increased egg quality. So one of our core activities is cage-free corporate campaigning. As you can see, this is my boss, Alfred Sihwa, in one of the stakeholder meetings which we conducted. And we're also doing policy review, but I'll also highlight on the challenges we have encountered in this regard. Open market cage-free campaigns, and also we run trainings to advocate for cage-free egg production. So this is some of the activities we have been carrying out. As you can see here on the slide, on this one, on the first slide, it's our director who was doing some education activities. And we've also engaged with one of the universities here in Zimbabwe, which is called the Gwanda State University, where they have an agricultural program. So they have been helping us also in disseminating information to their students, who we believe they'll also educate others as they go to practice what they've been taught in farms. So the surprises, the positives and the negatives. One of the negatives we have seen is that the demand for cage-free eggs in the Zimbabwe market is still relatively low. For example, I will say that commercial eggs produced in non-cage-free systems are cheap compared to those that are produced in cage-free systems. So with the current economic situation here in my country, many people are opting then to buy the cheaper ones. So when you're telling farmers, for example, that we need to transition to cage-free systems, one of their reasons of not getting into that route is that it is not economically viable. And you know, they're in this business to make money. So one of the challenges they highlight is that if we transition to these cage-free systems, after investing, for example, in battery cages, we may lose a lot. For example, some of them haven't realized the return on investment after investing in battery cages. So this is one of the challenges we have seen. So this makes cage-free egg production a not so viable business in a country dominated by low-income earners. We are struggling to make ends meet. Things that did not work out as well as anticipated. A big barrier to the implementation of cage-free system is the resistance by farmers, citing reasons which I have mentioned earlier. Many farmers have pushed and invested in battery cages because they've previously been viewed as the industry standard for maximizing production and profits. So if you're telling a farmer who has invested in that, he will tell you that, no, this is what I know will benefit me. So that barrier is something we have to deal with in educating them to consider also the welfare of animals before even considering profits. For example, when battery cages, I don't know when they were banned in China, but the market for them here in Zimbabwe is still considerably high. So people are still buying them from countries like China. So they've invested a lot in buying these battery cages. So when you tell him that, no, transition to cage-free systems, the biggest challenge is that I have not realized my investment on battery cages. So this is something which is one of the challenges which we have to deal with when we are doing our cage-free campaigns. Sibanye had hoped that through capacity building and trainings on use of cage-free systems, many farmers will quickly transition from battery cages to cage-free systems. However, the major hurdle has been the uptake of these cage-free systems, and the slow pace at which policy and legal frameworks are being reviewed is also a concern, because I believe this is a key driver that will help in the transition to cage-free systems. So the regulatory and policy framework for implementing cage-free systems in Zimbabwe is still limited. Another challenge we have seen is limited infrastructure and resources. So implementing cage-free systems requires appropriate infrastructure, like proper housing structures. But as I've highlighted, Zimbabwe is a country that's having some economic challenges. So the availability and affordability of such infrastructure and resources maybe not be okay, or people wouldn't consider them in terms of the financial implications. So the economic setting of the country is further exacerbated by the challenge of the foreign currency exchange rates. So if these rates are high, people who are living in Zimbabwe will be having difficulties or challenges in accessing US dollars to, for example, for purchase of infrastructure and other resources for helping them to transition to cage-free systems. So these are the lessons that we have learned. One of the lessons that I see is that there is need to carefully identify all relevant stakeholders and consult them on an individual basis to find out their concerns. For a country like Zimbabwe to transition to cage-free systems, there's need to talk to farmers. There's also need to talk to policymakers, to talk to consumers. So if we carefully identify all these and then talk to them on an individual basis and then facilitate a round table that bring together all these relevant stakeholders, it will help capture all the concerns so that a solution can be developed that to help in transition to cage-free systems. This involves also promote ownership of programs, because when, for example, we advocate for programs and we reach out to stakeholders, for example, policy makers that was saying, this is just a program for welfare organization who are trying to get funding or who are trying to advocate for animal health, but it doesn't benefit us at all. So if we find ways to involve everyone and then promote that they own those programs, that it will help in improving the welfare of chickens. And also to realize the political, social, and economic facets which affect implementation, especially in countries like Zimbabwe and other developing countries. There is need to recognize the political situation and then tailor your programs to fit that political context. So the recommendations to others is that welfare organizations need to realize that the successful implementation of cage-free systems largely depend on collaborative approach. So implementing cage-free work requires collaboration among various stakeholders, including farmers, welfare organizations, consumers, policymakers. This collaborative approach helps in problem solving. It also encourages communication, engagement, and cooperation among different parties for the common goal of improving animal welfare. So welfare organizations also need to take an active role in creating a conducive environment for collaboration. I think as welfare organizations, we are the ones who have to create roundtables which bring various stakeholders together so that solutions can be tabled which help in animal welfare. So what we wish we had known before, for example, we wish that cage-free work would have known that it is a complex task that involves multiple stakeholders. So as welfare organizations, we need to realize the socio-cultural and economic implications involved when doing campaigns. There is more politics than in it than an open eye could see. That is, politicians play a huge role behind the scenes. So campaigns also involve people that are not informed, who are the consumers, and the people that pretend not to know, who are the business community. So we need to have that perspective when you are tailoring your program so that you inform people who need to be informed and have a strategy to deal with people who pretend not to know. So governments also use farming as a political mileage tool. So it's a difficult thing to navigate through so that you will be viewed as apolitical, because the goal is to help chickens and animals, not to take political sides. So we need also to realize that perspective. Our cage-free work can improve the law if we get more personalized trainings on ways to improve institutional campaigns. So if we could have some programs, I've had one of my colleagues speaking about the mentoring programs. If we could have more of those which equip us so that we'll be able to do effective campaigns. And also we need to train more consumers. For example, training and involving consumer bodies like Consumer Council of Zimbabwe here in Zimbabwe, which will help us in advocating for policy formulations. There's also need to consider other issues like poverty and knowledge gaps, which I've highlighted, that because eggs from battery cages are cheap, people who are poor will tend to go for those. So we also need to realize those as we try and tailor-make our cage-free campaigns to suit the context of the areas we live in. There's also need for more literature that is relevant to Africa. So I think what could help is that us welfare organizations to collaborate on research so that we produce more available literature and journals to help in cage-free campaigns. We also need to engage lawyers, policymakers, and journalists, because these can be important stakeholders which can push our cage-free agenda. They also need to engage students through trainings and enrolling them as advocates, especially students in universities. They can help a lot in advocating for cage-free work. Working with agricultural colleges also helps, so that we try and improve the curriculum of cage-free or curriculum of the students there, so that they also incorporate cage-free work, and that's help in animal welfare. I think this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nkosana. That was very informative and insightful. Thank you for sharing what it is like to have a cage-free project in Zimbabwe. You may stop sharing your screen. So as Nkosana does that, we'll now start by entering into breakout sessions. So we'll have 3 breakout sessions led by our speakers. That's Nkosana from Zimbabwe, Daniel from Ghana, and Ayubu from Tanzania, where we're going to delve into much deeper discussions. Many of you are from these countries themselves, and you'd like to discuss, you'd like to find out more, you'd like to compare what it is like with your own country. So prepare your discussions, your comments. So Jenna will lead us into breakout sessions. Jenna, feel ready? I hope you had a great time in your individual breakout rooms. So now we'll just have a few minutes to be able to hear, what did you learn? What did you discuss? I'd like to hear experiences from Zimbabwe, from Ghana, from Tanzania. So if you'd like to share, just raise your hand and then I'll call you out, then you can speak. We just have a few minutes to go, then we conclude the webinar today. I will start. So I was in the breakout room with Nkosana from Zimbabwe, and we were able to hear that while, for example, the group at Sibanye Trust, they are working so hard to eradicate cages, a lot of cages are still coming in from neighboring countries like Namibia, Botswana. So that makes that fight against battery cages difficult. So we were all discussing the need to have perhaps regional collaboration and regional efforts in terms of advocating for the ban of battery cages and hen welfare in general. So that's what we are discussing. What did you discuss from your breakout rooms? Ademo, are you trying? Yes, Ayubu, you've raised your hand. Yes.
Thank you, Aurelia.
Yes, go on.
We have discussed on how the animal laws is implemented in Tanzania and the other part of Africa. And also we have discussed on how groups can collaborate to make sure that the corporates and companies are making commitment on how we can support each other for the companies to make a commitment. But also we have heard from other groups on how they are implementing cage-free activities from their end and who they have reached, and the suggestion on how we can also collaborate. Someone else can pick up and share. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayubu. That was very nice to hear. Would like to add on to that or to share their own experience?
Thank you, Aurelia. I was in a group work for Ayubu. Also, we got enough time to share. Yes, we got enough time to share from our respective countries. I'm from Rwanda. I tried to share with my colleagues the great work we are doing for cage-free work. Also hearing from other colleagues. I want to say in our group, it was very interactive and experience sharing. Maybe we have seen that we still have a lot to do when it comes to educate and to prevent adoption of battery cages, as most of African countries, they are supporting this battery cage, thinking that it's a way of promoting food security. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing experiences, Jean-Claude, and I'm happy that you got to share your own experience in Rwanda as well. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else, as we have a few minutes to wrap up?
Okay, I was with Daniel. I was in Daniel's group, and what I liked most was the approach to different companies, depending on the country that you are in. It's not a one size fits all. You have to look at your country, the policies, the government, how we have got different governments running. So he was just advising us how to approach our stakeholders, to identify our stakeholders and what to say to them. You don't have to have just one word, one sentence to all the stakeholders or the corporates that you are targeting. You have to first of all study them and know how you can approach them. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. That is very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else who'd like to share?
I also want to support Linda's sentiments in that you can't have one strategy for everyone. Yeah, you can't go and try and talk to farmers the way we want to talk to corporates. So there is need to change your strategy so that it suits the person you want to address. So I think for farmers or for consumers, you need to take an approach to talk to them and educate them, because some of them, they just go into farming, but they don't have the animal welfare practices in mind when going into these ventures. So it's okay to educate, and with corporates, we can use the strategy whereby we want them to be on our side so that they also advocate in our behalf with farmers, so that farmers also they take up cage-free systems by only doing this, so that corporates, when the corporates do this, then they'll be ensuring that they are only getting eggs from people who are committed to cage-free. So it's one strategy also to work with.
Okay, that's very nice to hear. Thank you for your input, Nkosana. Any final comments or any final closing remarks from anyone who'd like to share their highlights from the breakout sessions?
Yeah, to kind of summarize and to say, I think this was a really great program put together by the two organizations, and we as an organization is very glad to have participated in this and to help in contributing to sharing and working together to address this issue. So yes, thank you AAA, and thank you EAAW for coming to us with this and for
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for your feedback. It was great to bring you all together to be able to see how different countries in Africa compare in terms of their cage-free projects, their unique circumstances, the unique situations that they face, and just being able to sit down and listen to it. I hope you found this webinar useful for you. And I hope you got to pick a thing or two, you learned, you were able to share, and I hope this was an overall great experience. So we are going to conclude it here. We're going to call it a day. I'll be able to share the recording of this presentation. It will be live on the Open Alliance Resources site, and Jenna will also share with the Animal Advocacy Africa community. So with that, I'd like to thank you once again for taking your time to join us, to share your experiences, to listen to us. And we hope that through these discourses, we can be able to improve and finally eradicate battery cages in Africa. So with that, I'd like to wish you well and have a lovely day from wherever part of the world you're in. Bye.